So what Matt asked me to speak about was intentionality, and just like my focus right now. He said he was very excited about some of the averages I've been showing, like at the booth and just some other places, and when I show up to work. And so I'm excited to just share with you some things I'm doing and to actually go into a little bit about my story, because I know we are all very close, but I know that you guys all know I was a little bit part-time, like with Cintas for a while, but going into a little bit of my story there and my learning experience from corporate America, and then what it's done to bring and help me approach Cutco at just a higher level. And I'm really, really just excited to share this with you today, because I know some of you guys definitely know more than others, and a lot of it's kind of just like bits and pieces. And so this is going to be just me being very open, authentic, raw, and just giving you some of my learning experiences. And hopefully you guys can take some things that benefit you, in you as you guys continue to build your Cutco businesses. So it's really funny he asked me to speak about intentionality, because I didn't tell him this yet, but my one word for the year was intentional. So I don't know how many of you guys do this, but there's actually a book called The One Word, and it talks about like your focus and the one word that you kind of have for yourself for the year. And last year my word was relentless, and it was very good through 2020 to have that word. And then this year it is intentional. So I had a few things that I learned from the last 2 years at Cintas and Cutco part-time that helped me come to that word. And so it's very special to me. And then I hope you guys can take it to the next level and use, just like I said, some of these little nuggets. And even if you just get one from today, I'm excited for that with all the goods that we have been getting. So a few of you guys were definitely confused when I decided to accept the position with Cintas. Some of you guys knew a little deeper what I was going through in my personal life. So I'm first going to kind of go into background of why I decided to take that opportunity and the things I wanted out of it. And then the good news is, even being intentional through that, even with as much pain as that growth was, I got a lot of it from there. So my big thing is, so why Cintas? I really wanted to have more boundaries in my life and kind of create a different environment for myself, because I was in a place that I did not have very good boundaries for me. I was not able to say no to a lot of things. I was always the yes, yes, yes person, which got me far in some ways, but I honestly was just in a little bit of a burnout position. I was seeking clarity, and I hadn't been getting it running in circles the way that I had. I was in a pretty self-destructive path. I wanted a little bit more structure, and I honestly, frankly, wanted to get some of my shit together, because I was selling a lot, but I kind of got to the place where I couldn't work much harder and sell more to make the differences of the lacking in my self-discipline within my finances and just other areas of my life. So I wanted to create some space. I wanted to get clarity on what my real purpose in life was. What is my calling? And unfortunately, at that time, I was like, I don't know if my calling is selling knives. And I wasn't really, I think, as grateful for certain parts of this opportunity that I should have been. And that's actually something that I took from kind of getting some space from it. Again, I was not ever planning on fully leaving, and I didn't. But it was just kind of stepping back in some capacity to really just kind of sit back and get clarity and create some forced boundaries, because I wasn't good at putting them on myself. So I take complete ownership of that. And I will, that is funny. And actually, with that comment being said, so if you guys didn't see the chat, the chat box, I sold a hell of a lot for a part-timer. This is actually one of the things that has given me clarity. So, also, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, someone can mute. Okay, so with that being said, I also wanted to improve my B2B skills, because I just felt like I was not performing in the CGC spectrum at a high level that I wanted to be producing at. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go try this B2B thing and see what I learn. So those are kind of my whys. And then the good news is I got a lot of answers and a lot of clarity over my 2 years there. So while I was there, I learned a lot about corporate America, and long story short, there is a lot of politics and a lot of cutthroat, and I think some toxic things within that culture. The crazy part is Cintas is known as one of like the top 10 sales organizations to work for. Um, they, I think, have a lot of very good intentions as far as what they want their culture to be. Execution is very different. And so I went there, and it was funny because they painted this picture that the sales rep position was an entrepreneurial spirit. There was freedom and flexibility, and they were super proud of their culture. It was all great in theory and in their mission statement, but corporate America has a lot of restrictions, and they definitely have no idea what we have here at Vector and culture that is here. Because if they compared, they would really see what they were lacking. I also really got clarity and affirmation that a job is a really great way to make a living, but it's not a great way to get ahead. And I've heard this from a few other places, but this was something that I felt on a much deeper level. And I'm going to repeat that. A job is a really great way to make a living, but not to get ahead. And what's really cool about you guys is that you guys are running businesses. And this is not just a job, right? This is not something that we have to show up and clock in and hit quotas. Like, we hit our quotas because we want to, and we truly run a business. And I know you guys all know that, but I think seeing it from a different perspective emphasized that to me in a way that I guess I just didn't fully, I kind of took for granted. And so I encourage you guys to not take that for granted ever. With me being as ambitious as I am, I want to get ahead. I want to get into real estate. I want to be financially free, have systems, passive income, and own multiple businesses. And what's really cool about that is that this culture builds that from within. We cultivate that, and we want people to succeed at such a high level. Making just a living wage is just not the way we want to do things. So I could kind of go on for a long time about what Cintas didn't deliver that I was looking for. I'm not going to bore you guys with all that. I will say some things that I did learn about myself. I think I got a lot of self-awareness and mentally tougher through the situation. So through Cintas, they had very, very demanding quotas each week on what we needed to do. If you think we work hard at Cutco, like we kind of do, and especially at the beginning, and I won't say that during the fairs we don't work hard with our 12-hour days for 45 days straight. But what I learned is I got to choose at Cutco. I get to choose my hard. All right. At Cintas, there weren't a lot of options. Like, I felt like I was handcuffed. I felt like I was put in a cage. A caged bird is definitely how I would describe it. I wanted to fly, but there wasn't much allowance for that. And so I deeply respect even the hard things now, the stuff that I used to be irritated at or complain about within Cutco. I would gladly pick all those little hard things over the daily hard things that I had to deal with at Cintas. There was a lot of like, basically they would throw stuff at you that you didn't even know was your fault or that you were responsible for and blame you. There was tons of pointing fingers. There was poor execution on a lot of service. So I did learn that I have to absolutely be sold in what I am selling. So I gained that self-awareness. That is the thing that I loved Curtis's talk a few years ago. If you guys heard it, and it is about the product. You know, sometimes we say it's not about the knives, it's about the lives. No, Cutco is the phenomenal product, and being sold on that product is amazing. We have unparalleled customer service from our factory and backed by the company. And it is absolutely phenomenal. So my being sold on what this company is and this product on a whole deeper level has made me just that much more sold to be authentic and to share that with my customers, and to be so grateful that we have the service execution that we do, because there's a lot of companies out there that promise one thing, promise you the world, and do not deliver. I found that as part of my core values is to be honest and authentic, and I cannot live in an environment that would jeopardize that. And so that's something that I get here at Cutco, and has helped me be that much more intentional with all that we do. climbing the corporate ladder is not as glorious as it sounds. It's way too political for me. I love that what we do here is just so based on what we do to contribute. And sometimes that's with our numbers, but sometimes there's so much more to that and how we pour into each other and the people. And then, so I'm going to kind of list a few more other things of just the things I learned about myself and then how this translates. I had closure leaving because I was miserable there when I was at the bottom and when I was struggling and when I was just getting started and getting it moving. And then I was miserable when I was at the top. I started winning awards for my quarterly performances and was top 10 in the reps and all this other stuff. And I like still did not want to wake up every day to do what I was needed to do. It was very reactionary. I'm so grateful that what we do here is teach people to be proactive versus reactionary. It saves our time and makes us so much more efficient and allows us to really create some amazing things. I learned what I was worth and the value that I was worth, because I'd literally get a phone call from a past customer, make more money than I got on my weekly base salary there from some past customers, as far as our realtor program and just even people buying stuff on the family program, and those seeds that I had been planting for years coming back to cultivate and just be in the harvest. I literally made more money on a 15-minute phone call than I did a week there. And I want you guys, I just want to tell you that to let that sink in, that our time, there's not very many places that we can put in what time we do and yield the results that we get here. And that is such an important thing. I wanted a little bit more security, and the security is false. And that's what 2020 taught me. We literally Cintas was a super progressive sales organization, and they cut 20 to 30% of the sales team went a month into quarantine. Job security is literally just an illusion. And so that was something that kind of sunk in deeper, that this, I don't know, security blanket is just truly an illusion. And what I realized is that I was okay. And I came to closure with that. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm able to go out there and pursue what I want. I'm okay with the paychecks not being the same every week if I have the opportunity to make as much as I want. I gained closure on that. I would pick my heart of the inconsistency on the paycheck, even though I can actually produce a consistent paycheck if I'm really putting in consistent action, versus the security of what I'm trading my hours for over there. So, you guys know a ton of these things, but for me, I just learned this on such a deeper level of experience that it just sold me so much more on this opportunity. And I know this is not just a Vector opportunity talk, but I just want to share that gratitude that I so deeply appreciate has helped me internalize and be intentional with every moment I get to work for Cutco. It's kind of funny. Carlton and I will work at the booth and he'll sometimes make a complaint, or I'll even start thinking of a complaint. And I literally capture that thought. And I'm just like, none of the shit that is at Cutco is nearly as bad as the shit I had to deal with there. And he'll laugh at me and be like, dang, man, that must have really traumatized you there. And he gives me all kinds of crap. But it's so true. I love the choose your hard and own that. Just take extreme ownership of these are the hard things that I'm choosing and accept it and be grateful for it. I also just gained so much. What I also realized was that my potential value to the world was so much greater than I was able to offer there. We're able to offer such great, amazing value here. So enough about just how amazing Cutco and the opportunity is. Let's go into kind of just that intentionality and then the way that we can all apply this. And just the things that I actually learned from B2B that will actually help us here. So just alone, the experience and just being sold on that and that I'm in the right place with Cutco is amazing. The thing that we're building is also recurring for us, not recurring for somebody else. I realized how much I was working to just pour into somebody else's business, when here, if I grind and build for the next 3 to 5 years, I can create a sustainable business that gives me that freedom and life that I want. That this is not forever. The grind of the fair and every time I feel burnout is just a little tiny sacrifice that I can have for my future. And I think if we can remember that in our hard moments, when we are exhausted, when we drove 3 hours 5 hours to be somewhere, to set up a booth at the butt crack of dawn and set up outside and sweat our balls off and sell Cutco knives. And maybe we didn't hit our goal, but those days are still better than anywhere else we can be. And so for me, that is huge. And I want you guys all just to think about that, to reframe your thoughts that every day we struggle, that struggle is the struggle we choose and that we want. And it is so much better than what it could be. And it's not greater on the other side. So 1, just be grateful. 2, just be thankful every day that we get to be in the booth and every customer that you get to have. I've been very intentional on customer acquisition because I realize every single customer that I get today is building that business. I only have 3,000 customers and have sold what I have sold. I see what Chelsea and Josh and what other people's do. And if I can get to 10 or 15,000 customers, I can choose to train CrossFit all day. I can go start another business and still have this business flowing. So in those moments when it's hard, I just thank God for this opportunity. And I just try to get every customer I can. I want to sell them knives because some Cutco is better than no Cutco. All right, so lessons from B2B and residential. So that's the mentality side. Here's some practical things. We got tons and tons of goods on B2B from our talk last week. So, and some of these are going to completely underwhelm you. I sold 60-month contracts to businesses, which is a lot more difficult to sell than some amazing knives that are guaranteed forever. So my first tip, send the emails, make the calls, do the follow-up. When I worked there, when I worked at Cintas, it was crazy because at Cutco, we want to close people on the spot. We get a little bit impatient, or at least that's something that I felt that I did because I wanted to always close on the spot. Because if we didn't close them, we weren't going to get them. That's what we're taught as a new rep. And there's definitely some value to that. What is emphasized and what we've been preaching, and I know Josh and Rob Robinchick and so many others, is that the fruit is in the follow-up. The gold is in the follow-up. I used to have a little thing pasted that normally it takes 12 touches for somebody to purchase a product. So we need to follow up 12 times, at least. That's the average before somebody purchases. So send those emails when you say you're going to follow up. It was crazy how many times I would just send an email expecting nothing of it because I'm like, oh, these people are just putting me off. And I actually would get a response and I would close a deal. Especially B2B. So with these business owners, they're busy. They really just need that visual representation and that quote. They may need to check it by with a partner or something, or just running through the books before they can even give you an answer. So I also wrote, the faster the quote, the faster you're going to have an answer. So the sooner you can get them a quote right there at the booth, get them the exact numbers, the sooner they can give you an answer. With that being said, you also need to make sure we clarify who the business owner is. We need to get straight to the person. We talked about this last week at that business discussion, but we don't want to be wasting our breath and our time and our energy on people that can't even make the decision. But I will say it's not always a waste if we're talking to somebody to get to the decision maker. Sometimes you have to present 3 to 5 times just to get to the right person. So stay super persistent. Don't get impatient with them. Don't get impatient with yourself, but do put them into action. Give them an assignment. Make sure that they get done what they say they're going to get done and stay on them. We're busy. I know I appreciate follow up on some people of some stuff I meant to get done like last month. So these people are just busy, have a ton on their mind. A lot of times they aren't actually putting you off. Sometimes they are. We have to ask difficult questions, but we have to stay super persistent and just make sure that we are following up. These people are people, but that's like, and honestly, I think we need to do the same thing with residential. We need to be a little bit more tenacious, be bulldogs, be more assertive. That was also something I wanted to get out of this, and I think it worked. That's a side note from a conversation with Brian a few years ago. So shout out to you for bringing that self-awareness to me, and I appreciate it, and I still work on it every day. Another thing I wanted to point out is that I realized the value of how efficient we were here and to work smarter, not just harder, right? It's organizing those leads. It's keeping the right people top of mind, and it's following up with the right people constantly. If you think we make a lot of calls, so our quotas at Cintas were to make 100 calls on Monday and 100 calls on Wednesday, and we had a 4-hour window to get it done. and we had to collect 50 business cards a week from going into each business individually and getting the owners or the contact person's business card. And then we were supposed to also do 20 new appointments plus our follow-up appointments, and also be there for customer service and do our installs. They literally were unrealistic. The thing I didn't like is they made these standards and never actually held us accountable to them. And so what I love about Cutco is the fact that we actually put more realistic numbers. And what's crazy is that 20 phone calls a day can get us super, super far. And so just make those calls. I would say that something that made me a lot mentally tougher was the rejection I faced. If you guys think about the worst thing that has happened to you on a Cutco appointment, or a getting kicked out of somebody's house, or over the phone, 10x that. And that's basically what I experienced on the daily, because Cintas would not follow through on some of their service. And there was truly businesses and people that hated and swore off of ever using them again. So what I will say is that I have been made so much mentally stronger. A little story was Roger and I were working the volleyball show. He was over there crushing it with like multiple galleys and stuff. And I literally had 0 sales like all day on a Saturday until a spatula spreader at like 8 p.m. And I'd been there like 12 hours. And what was crazy was I was just like, it's coming, putting the actions in and just staying faithful and just sticking to that approach and energy for every customer that came in front. I hadn't been lucky yet. It would have been really easy. My old Marisa would have been jealous, would have been competitive, would have been pissed off that he's getting the sales and I'm not. And what was so cool, I was just like, I'm here getting to sell Cutco. My time is coming. My people are coming. I've got to just stay in it. And I have to give as much energy to this 8 p.m. spatula spreader and the next person I get to talk to as I did right in the morning with the fresh start. And I'm always at 0 restarting. Next day, I sold like 6 or 7 grand and like 1,000 for Brett. I don't even know. And I sold multiple package deals. That is not to brag, but it's only because I was able to stay in it and not get emotionally attached to my results, except for the fact and the trust that I knew the process was going to come through for me. It's always going to work out as long as I'm putting in that proper effort and that energy into that person. And I have to own that and be ready any second. All right. The other thing I really learned was extreme ownership. There's a really great book called This. It's by Jocko Willis. A lot of you know who he is. He's a Navy SEALs. He's all about just owning your mistakes. Oh, awesome. Great, Matt. It's a fantastic book. I'd listened to it. With the culture of blame and sometimes them flinging stuff on you that I didn't even know that I was responsible for as a sales rep till like 6 months or a year in. And sometimes they would just throw stuff and then always want to blame the sales reps. There was a lot of headbutting between sales and service. I realized like to take on the blame and to have really fierce and difficult conversations. I don't know exactly how that always translates into Cutco, but I will say that as a business owner and as somebody who is all of us who are ambitious and wanting to do really great things, I just think that this is a powerful tool. I think maybe even within our team, with each other. I love that Brian asks for that stuff, like when we are gathering. And it's just, it's taking an extreme responsibility for everything that happens in your life. And it's hard. It hurts sometimes. It's frustrating. I think it does translate. Sometimes I even think too, like our sales report, our results, like, oh, I'm not selling as much as this other person. Where can I take that extra extreme ownership and own where I am lacking or my weaknesses, to either delegate it or to just take it on and work with people. Whenever I started taking blame for stuff that wasn't even my problem, everybody else seemed to want to work with me better. And I think even with customer service now, I'm taking extreme ownership, even for stuff that's not my fault, and getting absolute raving fans. A lot of you guys are already doing that, but I just want to re-emphasize how important that is for all areas of our life, but especially with what our service is with our clients. You're also do have some boundaries and have ownership of what you told a client sometimes before. There's a lot of ways that this can be framed, but I think it's something very important for us to own, and something that I've done that has helped me be more intentional in all the areas of the life that I wanted to be excellent at, including my CrossFit competition, my CrossFit coaching, my Cutco, and then I'm also writing a book. I've got a lot of amazing projects going on, like some of you guys don't probably know about, but just taking extreme ownership on the good, the bad, and the ugly has given me so much clarity of what I want and the next steps and being able to move forward the fastest. And has helped me be that much more assertive and step into the person that I need to be. All right. I have a lot of notes here and I really put a lot into this talk. So I apologize if I'm starting to kind of go over. I am going to go over a few last things that are a little bit even more translatable to you. So things I've focused on this year to increase my averages. I'm going to package that all up in kind of just a little list and hope you guys can take something from this. So the first one, super simple, is just keeping that enthusiasm, gratitude, and authenticity behind what we do and with Cutco. I've already beat that like a dead horse, but just own that. And I can send you guys this list too. I took a lot of notes and wrote all this out so I can shoot it to you guys as the team later. 2, just focus. What you focus on expands. We know that from Tony Robbins, right? I've really been focusing on upgrades. I knew I wasn't selling enough of them. And part of that's just because y'all are a rising tide and you guys are crushing it with upgrades. And I'm like, why don't I sell a lot of upgrades? I sell 1.5 million pieces. Well, guess what? I wasn't starting up with the upgrades unless I really read that customer as an upgrade potential. Now I'm just more consistent and I stick to the plan. I show the upgrade first. It's not that hard. I go over all the programs with every customer. And just by going over those upgrades, I've sold a lot more. Shocker. But I think it's just, and I think it was one little tweak that I made. And I think it was from Seth's talk on this. I don't remember where to cite it from, but it was just like, yeah, every one of our customers wants to build to this set, the ultimate. So it's also in the ultimate pitch and the upgrade. And just making it totally normal. And like, that was the thing most people did. And let's fit this upgrade package to what you want has made it so easy. And so it's created interest in even for people that can't afford it. Now they want it on their wish list. And I've sold a ton of upgrades this year and some more bigger sets because of it. So tiny little tweak. That line was my big nugget. Everyone's building to this set. Everything else has pretty much stayed the same in the conversation in the normal selling Cutco. All right, 3. Also, this one was important for me. This is just being empathetic. Meet customers where they're at. Cintas did have a little fun acronym. It's called ECIR. Empathize, clarify, isolate, respond. ECIR. Empathize, clarify, isolate, respond. So anytime anybody gives you an objection, you literally feel with them. We do this subconsciously, but breaking this down in a process made it so much easier to be repeatable. I know that Josh is all about processes, the whole like me, know me, trust me, pay me, those type of things. This is another one that I hadn't heard yet. And maybe someone's taught it in Cutco, but it's one that resonated with me and still resonates with me. So you empathize, and then you clarify. Okay, so this is your problem. This is what you're feeling. Isolate. If this was the only problem holding you back from doing this today, would you be able, you just isolate that problem and then you fix it. Then you respond. It's very, very simple. It's what we do a lot naturally just with our approaches, but being able to just think about that and empathize and meet people where they're at is awesome. Also, something I've learned is to pause, take a beat, and build conversation. So when we're at, if you're kind of getting that energy that somebody wants to walk away or they're feeling uncomfortable, they don't want to spend the money, there's something there, break the pattern. Cintas did also teach me how to be not afraid to interrupt. With our cold calls or on-site visits, we just had to walk in a business and interrupt them with whatever they were doing and ask for the business owners. Not very comfortable for me. Little Southern girl, taught to have her manners. But the more we can learn to break patterns and be comfortable with that and just build a conversation, pause, it's absolutely crazy what that does to the human psyche, and just take time to make the relationship instead of just making it about the sale. It breaks the pattern, it interrupts, and it allows us to then sneak in other ideas. There's also some stuff with neurolinguistic programming and Tony Robbins stuff I don't have time to go into. You guys are all very high level and pretty much get that. But sometimes I have to step back and remember to take that beat to actually just build conversations and be a human and not just have that script. So it's helped me. All right, next one. So this is something I've learned from coaching CrossFit. We have talked about taking it from being a good coach to a great coach. A good coach has a cue for every workout movement to kind of correct a movement. Okay. A great coach has 5. And this for me sunk in, right? We have at Cutco teach so many amazing objection handlers, or there always seems to be the best way or the new way, or how, Mike Dawitt or how Josh Schmoller is handling this objection. Like, let's do it. What I realized, and when I'm on fire, like I have been, is I have 5 responses to every objection. And I use the right one for that moment and for that person. And if one doesn't work, I fall back on another. And if one doesn't work, I fall back on another. So I just want to encourage you, one way isn't right all the time, or is it the best, right? And what is the difference between best and good? Best is A is good. And honestly, to get a sale and to sell Cutco, a lot of times all we need is good. If it's best, we're constantly going through a million scenarios just to try to find the best or perfect way. This is the whole concept of progress versus perfection, not just perfection. Have a lot of good responses. Have that tool kit of how to respond. So be prepared with the kilo turbo ridiculous deal. Be prepared. I know what that means. From Chelsea, that little special. I love that one. One helped me kill it at Granbury. Do you like Cutco enough to want it? Package or price, which is what it comes down to most of the time. And we ask a lot of questions just to get to that actual answer, that authentic answer. The both response, cash discount and freebies, right? The some Cutco better than no Cutco, and framing things like that to be able to drop down. That's 6 little tool bit things that we can just use and pull because we've been practicing and we know them and we've been knowledgeable. But having the clarity to be like, there's not just the best way or only one way to skin the cat, or only one way to get the sale, and just owning the fact that, ooh, I have all these tools to use based on what this person is saying. And that's why we drill this. That's why we role play. 7, I just have fun now. Cutco, I took my job way too seriously before going to Cintas, and now I have so much fun doing this thing, and people can feel that. And that's what I love about Chelsea. It's what I love about Josh. I love about Brian, Kelly, all you guys, Matt. You guys have fun with your customers, and that's what this is about. And when you have fun, you sell so much more Cutco. So just don't take it too seriously. Have a good time. All right. Also, this one, I'm sorry, I'm going to cuss. 8, do not give a fuck. Stop caring too much about winning that day. Stop caring too much about the little and unimportant things. I highly recommend the book called Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Changed my life. And that, like I said, has allowed me to get so much mentally tougher. I don't sweat the little things nearly as much. Another fun little acronym. Yes, I did. SWSWSWSW. And I hadn't heard that yet in the sales world either. Again, I may have missed some things, but some will, some won't, some will, so what, someone's waiting. So some will, some won't, so what, someone's waiting. Deal with rejection, move on. We sometimes get bogged down of what we did wrong with the customer. Forget it, learn from it what you can, but let's move on because someone's waiting to buy that ultimate. Okay, we know what we're doing, we're awesome. Anyway, 9 is to also understand we have our biggest competition is the status quo. It's not just another company, it's what the people are already doing before they meet us. And being able to understand that. And I got that from a book called, it's a prospecting book. I will definitely go look it up. I have it. But it just talks about our biggest competition as a salesperson is the status quo. So it's what knives do they already have, right? Feel them for where they're at. I think we all understand that, but just having that clarity to know that and attack it is helpful. Number 10 as a salesperson is prospect, fill the funnel. That's our job at the shows. Get as many leads as you can, fill the funnel up. If somebody can't buy it, get them on your list. Let's maximize it. That's what we've been working on. That's why we have sales and service event, but our job as a salesperson is to prospect. And that is daily. The shows make it easy. We get to stand there and they come up to us. But during the week, what are we doing to prospect? How are we filling that funnel get more people in the database. That is the answer to all our problems. And then the last thing is just business owner mentality. I beat this to a dead pulp, but look at everything from a monthly profitability, a monthly management, big picture. We are building something amazing here, and have the peace of mind to be in build mode right now, because our futures with the caliber of this team and what we're doing are so freaking bright. And anyways, I'm just honored to be on this team. I hope that wasn't too ADD and blah everywhere. I hope that that gives you guys some really great nuggets to take. I hope that reaffirms you in your choice of being here, and just to be so grateful every time we get to walk in a booth. And I know you guys already are from 2020, but just somebody who has been on the other side and really learned these lessons at a deeper level, I think it's important to be reminded about it and to really deeply know these things. Anyways, thanks guys so much for your attention, and we're done. So.
Yeah, Maher. That was phenomenal. That might be the best talk I've ever heard you give. That was unbelievable. That was so good. Like that was a net meeting talk you just gave. And